All right, so the monkey build has gotten a little absurd, and this installation is going to be no exception. So, a couple things. I ordered this from Tyga Performance out of Thailand. I ordered this on Wednesday, and it was here at my door on Friday morning. You definitely pay for the shipping though. Their least expensive shipping for this box that weighs maybe 2 pounds was $50. I opted for the $70 option. There's a number of different carriers that they use. All of them are about $70 though, for again a box that weighs about 2 pounds. But impressive how quickly I got it. So here's what it is. So this is the lesser interesting of the two pieces, and I'd been wanting to get this anyway, but since I was able to bundle it with shipping, I decided just to pick it up. But this is a engine cover in the same carbon fiber that most of the other pieces on the bike are. Most of the carbon fiber on the bike is from Tyga Performance. So the fact now that I also have the black clutch cover case from Katako, it helps make the rest of the engine black and match a bit. And I'm just a big fan of carbon fiber. So anyway, this piece looks fantastic, and this will just be a quick bolt-on. But the more interesting thing, and also more ridiculous thing that I ordered, was the rear set from Tyga. So the factory rear sets on the Monkey leave something to be desired. It includes a new shaft that goes through the swing arm. I'm not sure if this is longer or shorter, but it looks to actually be a Honda part, apparently for maybe a different motorcycle that works for this application. There's two pieces. I assume it's the left and the right. All right, here it is. So this looks like it's the left rear set. It also comes with inserts of the color of your choice. I have a lot of this red anodized accenting, so I chose that. This comes out, I think, and there's slots for adjustments, because you can have this be more or less aggressive in its stance, and then it gets covered with this red anodized piece to make it look a little more clean. But this is all machined aluminum, and then the carbon fiber heel protector. The carbon fiber looks great, and the machining of the rear set here looks really nice. And then here is the right side brake rear set. So again, really good machining. The ball bearing action on the brake lever here feels really good. One side note that they mentioned though is that this doesn't have provision for rear brake light. So I guess two things. One is I rarely brake without also having my hand brake, my right brake on, which would actuate the rear brake light. So it's infrequent that I'm only using rear brake, but I'm also going to see if I can't find a way to make that work anyway. One of the comments on the Tyga Performance page was that you could do an inline pressure switch if you still wanted to have the brake light. So anyway, I'll probably figure something out, but by default it doesn't support the rear brake light from the foot brake here. Anyway, so we'll get these on the bike, see how they look, and more importantly, see how they feel as we ride it around. So these rear sets have lots of options for adjustability. There's 5 different positions on how aggressive the rear set can be, but you can just see here how far back the peg is in relation to where it was on the factory rear set assembly. And then there's 2 options for how high the rear set can be, or the footrest that is. I think it's currently set in the lower orientation, but it can go up even higher. And it looks like there's an option here to change where the actual brake lever sits, whether it's higher or lower. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull off the OEM one and put on the new one. Again, it does come with a, I think, longer axle bolt to accommodate the new rear set. And this is actually an OEM Honda piece. And then there's 2 spacers. I believe the longer one goes on the right side of the bike, and this shorter one on the left side of the bike. This top nut is 19 millimeters. And then the lower bolt is a 12 millimeter. And this just slides off. And the brake assembly here is held on by 2 8 millimeter bolts in the back. See one here and one down here. And the new rear set has provisions for the same, so I'm just going to back both of those off. And this lower piece is held in by a cotter pin that I need to unbend and pull out here. And then I also need to remove this pressure switch.
All right, on this side, this is the bolt that comes all the way out and is being replaced with the new bolt. I believe the new bolt's longer because of the spacing. This is just a 12mm bolt to pop out, and that's just as easy as the other side. The only other things that need to be done on this side for removal, one is removing, I believe it's a 8mm, or maybe it's a 10mm nut right here to loosen the clutch mechanism right here, and this just slides out. I'm going to start this off in the middle position and see how it feels, and then move it either forward or backward after I do a bit of riding. So that's then, of the 5 options, the bolt in the middle.
You can see that the new bolt is about 1 inch longer than the original bolt. So then this bolt is going to go through here first. Then the included spacer, and then the washer that was already there.
The kit also comes with this little clip. It looks like a clip to hold an RC car body to the chassis. But I believe it's used right here where we previously had a cotter pin, and it just slips in to prevent that from ever releasing.
All right, so I'm going to tighten this bolt up, get these plates back on with the little screw that's provided.
All right, so both sides are now installed and it looks great. I just need to set up the linkage here between the left rear set and the shifting mechanism. I assumed it would have its own device, but it appears that it doesn't. So I'm going to see if I can't pull off this piece. I'm assuming there may be a bolt the size of this so that you're just reusing this, which would make sense.
All right, and while I have clearance here, I'm going to pop on this new carbon fiber chain guard.
I believe this is also supposed to be torqued to 9 foot-pounds typically, but since it's carbon fiber, I'm just being real mindful that I don't actually crack it. So I'm just kind of feeling where it gets pretty tight.
All right, so I just put it in where it seemed to make sense, but I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of adjustment until that assembly works the way that I want it to.
Because I'm just eyeballing here where the shifter is in relation to the rear peg and the positioning on this tie rod here. So I'm going to go for a ride, see how it feels, see how it shifts. And I have a feeling I'm going to have to take this off quite a few times as I try to dial in the exact length that I'm looking for to, feel as comfortable as I'd like it to. All right, so after riding around for a bit, I have the Rearsets set to the second least aggressive position, having it one away from being as close forward as possible. It still feels a lot more aggressive than the stock ones where the foot peg was right about here. Everything feels real nice. Feels a lot like the ZX6R, which has rear sets that are actually even more aggressive, but it's a position that I'm more comfortable riding on a motorcycle. So now that I have that sorted out, the next thing to do is figure out how do I get my rear brake light actuator to work again, because this kit doesn't have a provision for the rear brake light. I think it has to do with the fact that with so many different positions that it can be set up in, that it may be difficult to find something that works well across the board. Anyway, so I've again gone to my 3D printer to figure out a solution. I have here, I bought another bolt. The stock bolt that holds this carbon fiber heel protector is only about, 12 millimeters long. So I got another stainless steel one that I believe this was 30 millimeters. And it then gives me an anchor point for the mount that I'm going to build for the rear brake light sensor. So what I have here so far, this is just a quick rough draft to figure out sizing. I have calipers to measure, but it's always, I get real close, I print it, and then I can make adjustments from there. But the way this will work is it snaps here onto this part of the bar, and it's going to ultimately thread into this portion, the remaining portion of this bolt. So you can see here I am just a couple of millimeters off with this what's effectively going to be a nut, so that I can screw this on and secure it here so that this can't rotate. But with that anchored in place, this is kind of cut away so you can see what it'll look like when it's done. This will then mount there, and I now just need to find a way to connect the spring down here. So I'm not using this first hole here, I'm using the second hole for the positioning of my rear brake lever. I just started printing the hopefully final version of this, but it still has a ways to go. It's been going for 10 minutes and is 3% done, so I think the time on this was going to be close to 2 hours. Alright, so here's the completed mechanism. This is the 3D printed piece that holds the sensor here that has the spring. It's mounted again from this bolt here, threads into this part of the 3D printed portion. Then this has a 20.7 millimeter diameter that's in the semicircle, so it clamps on to the bushing that came with the kit. Then there's this, I can't remember the exact inner dimensions or outer dimensions of this hole, but this hole then has the sensor through with the spring here. That in focus. And then it's held on by, and I'll pull this off to show you how the clamp works that I made for the bottom, but now when you articulate the brake here, it moves the spring. That triggers the brake lights. I'll kind of bring the camera over here so you can see the brake lights. When you press off, on, off, on. Here's the bracket that I made to hold the lower side of the spring. What it does is it goes through either one of these bolts. You can use either one of these, either one of these holes. These are the two holes that you select depending on how aggressive you have the placement of the rear sets, either forward or backward. But it'll work for either position. I'm using the lower position. But all it does is it turns, it's kind of a washer within a 90-degree bend to hold the spring there, about 10 millimeters, a little over 10 millimeters, maybe 15 millimeters away from the side of this to match up with the spring. This system also doesn't require a lot of travel. The overall travel is only, probably less than a centimeter, but it's enough to actuate the plunger that's closing the connection to turn the brake lights on. So I just need to clean this up. I'm going to finish sanding this up, and then I'll put a coat of paint on it. I'm also reprinting a final version of this 3D printed module here in a very high density, just so that it's that much more durable. But otherwise, I think that's it. So I'm glad that I was able to not only get this rear set kit on, but also find a way to keep my rear brake light working. And again, not that I use it that often. I almost always use my handbrake while I'm braking, in addition to the rear brake, but I just didn't want to lose functionality while adding something new to the bike. So happy that it turned out that way. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any comments, please throw it down below. And again, I'll link to a Thingiverse upload of this print in case anybody else is interested in doing the same. Thanks for watching.